Okay, Watford High Street. Looks like our friends, the Jehovah's Witnesses, are out and about. They usually are. They don't really go from door to door anymore. They just tend to stand with a lot of copies of Awake and the Watchtower, their magazines, and they just stand at a corner and they just try to hand out the magazines and hope people will talk to them. Well, I will certainly talk to them. I want to know their views on, well, everything really. How the universe began. How do they know that their book is true? Etc., etc. This should be interesting. Hello again. I spoke to you before, didn't I?
Yes, how are you?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good.
Good. Did I leave you any literature last time? It's been a while now.
I think you did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Did you ever read it? How did you find it?
Yeah, I didn't understand a lot of it, but
Okay.
brought up Christian.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I know a bit about JWs, but not a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
So, brought up in a Christian household, what is it, a Catholic?
Actually, my dad was Catholic, and my mum is Baptist. Now she's gone down the evangelical route. It's all a bit strange.
What's changed her mind then? What is it that she likes about that then she must have been?
What when she changed?
Yeah, what is it about that religion that she then sort of swapped over and...
I think it's just that she went to a Baptist church for a long time, and now she's sort of housebound. And there's certain TV channels where
yeah.
there's a lot of, the going up and down and people falling over and getting healed and all that. And she thinks all her problems will go away eventually if it all, I don't know, it all comes through the telly, and of course nothing happens.
Yeah.
So, cause I'm quite a skeptic really, but...
Yeah, well, I would agree on that side of things, because there is scriptures that say that the healing and the miracles were for a certain period of time. It was when the Christian congregation first started after Jesus' death, because obviously they were Jewish, and then obviously Christ came, ended the law, and started a new congregation. And God used His Holy Spirit to give them the ability to do the healing and the miracles and speak in tongues, so that people could see that they had God's backing.
Yes.
And once that then got established, and people could see that it was God's backing, He then said there was no longer a need for that, because it had they could see that it had His backing.
So, I mean, like me, I think these miracles that supposedly happen, aren't really happening at all.
If someone was able to heal you, then there would be no sickness in the world.
That's what I've always said. The hospitals would be
agree?
closed.
Would you not just be walking around touching everybody, no matter who, and healing them? Would you not agree?
Well, it's like the members of Soul Survivor, this happy clappy youth group in Watford. They seem to think they've all got the power to heal people.
Then why are we all sick?
And I should actually say to them, well, why are the hospitals? I mean, let's all go into the children's ward right now, into the burns unit,
and heal them all.
But
that's exactly the point. The Bible tells us that we wouldn't be able to do those types of miracles in this period of time, and it tells us quite plainly in the Bible that that's the case. They did happen because it just showed the God's ability to be able to perform those miracles at a later date. So you've heard the word Armageddon.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's God's holy war.
Yeah.
Against His enemies, are opposed to God, and His kingdom will then rule the world. I.e., it will be a government. It's how the word for government. And then, because we know what powers God has got, i.e., to be able to heal the sick and resurrect the dead, He will then do that. He will then make sure that anybody that's survived will be healed.
Why would God find people His enemies, really, if we're so far below Him?
Because there's certain things in the Bible that God has set out as rules and regulations, if you like, for want of a better word. And He gives everybody the opportunity to read that and to understand that He is the creator. Therefore, He has the right to say what's best and what's not best. And He gives us all a choice. It never forces anybody to do anything that they don't want to do. But even though we've got that free will and that choice, there are consequences of whatever action we take. For instance, if you owned a house and you decided to rent it out, and you had rules and regulations, no pets, possibly no smoking, no wild parties, look after the decor, don't do this. You have a list of things that you wouldn't want those what's the word?
Tenants?
Tenants to do.
Yeah.
Because it's your house and
Yeah.
you want it kept nicely. Now, if they agree to that, or whatever, they go in and they rent, and then they start disobeying the rules, if you like. They start having these wild parties, and people are putting cigarette marks all over your furniture.
Yes,
and, you know, you have the right to say, no,
Yeah.
you need to move out because I've given you this and you've abused it. And in a similar vein, on a bigger scale, God's given us the earth to enjoy, to look after, and to live in a way that pleases Him. And there are rules and regulations. We have laws that we have to obey. For instance, we have to obey the laws of physics.
Yes.
We don't feel encroached by those laws. They protect us. We know that if we sit at the top of that building,
Yeah.
the laws of gravity will pull us down and we'll really hurt ourselves. But because we know that information, it protects us from doing stupid things like that. And so the other laws that we get from God have a similar effect. They may seem sometimes a bit restrictive because you think, oh, I really want to do that. But long term, God knows that is going to benefit us. But if someone's constantly fighting against that, it's not someone that He's going to want in his home. He wouldn't destroy someone without them understanding.
But people are going to they're going to behave differently, aren't they? People are, they live in different parts of the world. They're not all going to hear this story and the Gospels and the...
Yeah, we will, because Jehovah's Witnesses are worldwide, and we translate into over 600 languages. We have 8 million people.
Only since 18 whatever, So what about the people before that?
Yeah. So all those ones that have died in ignorance will get a resurrection.
Yeah.
Okay, and they'll be given a chance to learn again.
Yeah. But how are you sure of this?
Because everything that we do is based on the Bible.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you compare other religions that say they're worshipping God, first of all, they don't use God's name. Second of all, they don't preach, and they don't follow all the commands in the Bible.
So that should say Jehovah rather than Jesus or God?
Jesus is God's son.
Yeah.
And Jehovah is God's name. He is God, that's what he is. It's a title. It's like saying the Queen, but her name is Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is Yahweh? Because that was in the Old
Yahweh
Testament.
is the Hebrew. It's the Tetragrammaton. Yeah. So that is right. That is correct.
Yeah.
And you'll find that on a lot of cornerstones of a lot of churches, actually, funnily enough. But that's been found in the old sea scrolls. So when we translate our Bible, we will use the word Jehovah because in the original transcripts, the Tetragrammaton is there. A lot of the time that the word Jehovah is taken out of the Bible is from a Jewish superstition because it did say something along the lines of never take the Lord's name in vain. So they were so worried about bringing reproach on that name, they actually stopped using it. That's not what God is saying. He's just saying that if you're representing me as God and Jehovah, don't make my name look bad. Do you know, like if you've got a company and you set someone out in the uniform and then they start acting really badly, it brings reproach on the company, not that person, but on the person that they're representing, and that's exactly the same with Jehovah. So when he said don't abuse my name or don't use my name in vain, he was saying that you're representing God, so therefore act like you're representing God. And so, but the Jewish superstition was that they were so worried about messing it up that they actually stopped using it altogether and used the word God instead of Jehovah. But God wants us to know His name. That's why it's in the Bible. In fact, have you ever said the Lord's Prayer?
Yeah.
Our Father, who art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name.
Hallowed be
I say
thy
yes.
name.
Yeah.
How can you sanctify or make something holy if you don't know or use the name?
But why would an omniscient being really care about such petty things like that? Like, don't do this, don't do that, don't act like this, don't have sex before marriage. It's like, it's like he makes faulty humans and then blames us for his mistakes.
He didn't make faulty humans. He created Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And they were perfect. And he gave them commands. He had the whole of the Garden of Eden, and he said everything's yours. Eat to satisfaction. Enjoy my creation. Enjoy the animals. Give them names. He had given them little jobs to do. They were to have children and fill the earth and make the whole world a lovely paradise. He said, there's one thing I want you to do. I just don't want you to touch this tree here.
So he puts the tree where they can see it.
Do you know how big the Garden of of Eden was?
I imagine it being like the size of, this square here, but you're probably going to say it's huge. Right?
About the size of Wales.
About the size of Wales.
If you look where you sit, where in the Bible, as it describes the borders with the different rivers that run through it, the Euphrates and some other rivers, it's actually very, very big.
But he's still pointing out the tree to them, isn't he? And saying, don't go near it. So obviously he wanted to see what they would do, which is odd because he should know already.
No, because he doesn't. We don't work with fate. He gives everybody a choice. Yes, I suppose there is a test there because he wanted them to be obedient.
But he knew the answer. He knew what would happen.
Not necessarily.
So he's not omniscient.
Yes, but he doesn't always choose to know the future. It gives people a chance. Because, for instance, if he knows all about that, then there's no point in preaching. There's no point in anything. All our lives are mapped out, and there's nothing we could do to change it.
Yeah.
But he's not like that. He puts choices in front of people. He wants people to serve him because they love him, not because they're told to. We're not robots. We're humans.
Yeah. So he does know everything, and he put this test out there, and he said, I'm just going to turn off my omniscience for a while and see what happens. And then that's what happened. They took the apple. Or the fruit.
He did say to them if they did do it. They thought they knew better.
But it wasn't a sin as such. She didn't stab him or something like that. She just plucked an apple. She was quite innocent at the time.
She disobeyed God. And
so,
he said that if you eat from the tree, he said it quite clearly, if you eat from the tree, in that day you will die. And they did die. Not in that day, because when he said a day, it means 1,000 years. There's other scriptures.
They lived quite a long time.
Up to 1,000 years is a day for God,
So he didn't mean die physically there and then, because they obviously
in that day,
didn't.
as in it's about 1,000 years is the period of time that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And they did die within that. But on the other hand, you had a spirit creature there who was very jealous of the relationship that they had with God and what God has got, and he wanted that for himself, and he told them a lie. He said to them, if you eat from that tree, you'll become like God, knowing good and bad, and you positively will not die.
But isn't that a good thing, knowing the difference between good and evil? That implied that they didn't know the difference between good and evil.
They didn't know evil, no, because they were perfect.
Yeah.
But as soon as they did know evil, what happened to them? Who told the truth? In that scenario, God said to them, if you eat from it, you'll die.
Yeah.
And the evil one said, if you eat from that, you won't die. Who was telling the truth?
Well, it depends on your perspective, really, because...
did they die or did they not die?
They didn't die on the spot, which
No,
it implies.
But they had the chance of living forever. If they hadn't eaten that fruit, they'd still be here today.
So in physical bodies, they would still be here today.
Bodies aren't meant to die.
Oh, it seems strange to make like a physical being to live forever, rather than why not just create a spiritual man up in heaven?
He had angels in heaven, but he created physical people for the earth.
Yeah. Don't just look at this sometimes and think this is a myth that people created to answer questions before they knew from science. Now we know from science.
How do we know? What do we know from science?
We know about evolution. We know about how old the universe is.
Yeah, I agree with the age of the universe. But I haven't yet found an evolutionary theory that I would believe over creation.
Well, I mean, I grew up believing, obviously, everything you were talking about, you've been talking about. But then when I got to about 20 or so, I thought, no, I think that's a story, And science isn't a story. It's stuff that they discovered through experimenting. They didn't start with the answer. They started with a question. And then found, oh, gosh, ape-like creatures, and then us. That's pretty weird, but... Let's see what my peers think, and they found the same thing. Other scientists found the same thing. Peer-reviewed results, and it still goes on today. And a lot of people don't like the idea that we came from ape-like creatures, but there you go. Just because some people don't like it, I don't think it should be rejected. But that's just me.
No. and like we were just saying earlier on, we have free will.
Yeah.
I know you don't want to hear this, but that's how God actually created us. He doesn't want us to serve him because we've been told to, or coerced, or guilt. It really is out of appreciation and love for someone that's built a beautiful planet for us to live on. That's completely perfect for us. That's the exact distance correct distance away from the sun, that we neither fry nor freeze,
Yeah.
that the oxygen levels are completely perfect for us, that the fruit and veg has the complete and utter right minerals and vitamins that work in line with our bodies.
Well, some do, yeah.
But it could be worse, couldn't it? Because the way I look at it, when I think about evolution, when I go down that route, I kind of get stuck with the whole, how did things reproduce? Because like even with the human body, when a woman is pregnant, she produces a hormone called progesterone. That is only present when she conceives a child, because when the child is in her, the body would automatically reject it because it's a foreign body. But just at that moment, it produces a hormone called progesterone. And I kind of think, when did that appear? Because it would have to be there from the very beginning in order for the human race to carry on, or for whatever of Neanderthal or whatever it is that you're thinking. At what point did that happen?
It didn't happen at a point.
No,
it's
that's
just
what I'm saying.
evolved over time.
It would never get to the next stage, because if you didn't have it, we wouldn't be able to get to the next stage. And that's the thing that worries me. And for instance, things that were meant to come out of the water onto the land, well, if you put a fish on the land, it will suffocate, and if you put a human in the water, it will suffocate. At what point did it suddenly was able to get out of the water?
Well, that's just it. It wasn't suddenly. I mean, we've got fish now that have rudimentary feet. They go up under the land and then go back in again.
Because they're created that way. But
they might evolve into
a leap of faith
something
for me
else
to
later.
Feel that even if it was a million years, at what point in that million years did that creature suddenly be able to cope with the oxygen and not the water?
Well, it's very, very gradual. See, we had trouble looking at it, but when we look at the fossil record, we can see it.
They would die though, wouldn't they? So at what point would it? What point would it change?
Well, it's not a point. It's just a very, very gradual. It's like the fish that exist now, like mudskippers. They will go out onto the land and they'll go back in again.
But that's because they're designed that way. Because when the Bible talks about creation, it says that each animal, each creature was designed according to its kind. And nothing to do with Jehovah's Witnesses, but I was watching something on YouTube the other day, you might have even seen it. A chap went to a university over in America, and it was one of the top universities that teach evolution, and he kept saying, the word science means that you should be able to, when something's scientific, you should be able to do the experiment. I'm not using the right terminology. You should be able to recreate the experiment again. So, like, say you discover something, I found something out. Let me show you. I'm going to recreate that experiment.
Yeah, it has to be repeatable. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he was saying, show me some evidence that shows that evolution is happening right now. Observable evidence that evolution is happening right now. And in a change of kind, like say from feline to canine, from birds to whatever. And they couldn't think of anything, because they brought up about the finches on the Galapagos Islands, and they said, well, what did they change into? They changed because of their environment. And we'll do that, if we go on holiday to a hot country, we go brown. And if I'm out in the sun too long, my hair goes, and if I'm doing a physical job, my physical appearance would change. So we're not talking about adaptation, we're talking about changing from one kind to another. And none of them in the university could give him any observable evidence.
Yeah, because they were asked the wrong question. They said, at what point can you find something that exists now? But as I said, it's over millions of years.
Yeah, but there must
so you have to look way back in the fossil record.
But we can actually see it happening now.
When you say now, do you mean transmuting in the last couple of years?
Obviously still, if evolution is... We should still be evolving, shouldn't we?
Apparently we are. Apparently everything's transitional. Well, we don't know. There's no end game. There's no purpose. It's just wherever evolution happens to take us. Like crocodiles and alligators, they pretty much seem to have stopped because they function well enough. We may have stopped, but probably not, because we've got problems like our appendix and things like that, things which we don't need, and maybe we'll evolve out of that. Yeah, but there is an animal called Tiktaalik, which lived many millions of years ago, and it was in the water. It was sort of a lizard-type creature, and then we also have fossils of it on the land, and there's a middle fossil as well, which they have linked all these three together, and they look at the nostrils. Initially, when it was in the water, the nostrils were on top, like a blowhole, so it could, like a dolphin, breathe through the air. In the middle fossil, it had moved down a bit, and in the most recent one, it's in front, like a crocodile, because it had moved onto the land, and they can genetically link all three of those, and that is transitional proof.
Yeah.
But it was over millions of years. So
yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I mean, but like you obviously feel that evolution is the answer to what you from your studies. I still feel that based on what I've read in the Bible, I mean, there's a scripture found in Hebrews that says that every house is constructed by someone, but he that constructed all things is God.
Yeah.
And for me, it's logical.
Yeah.
Because that bus that's driving past right now, we would never imagine in a million years that just appeared as if by magic.
We didn't.
Over time. No, it was designed and it was created, and I found in my studies or limited studies of science and creation that things are just too wonderful and too perfect.
Yeah.
And incredibly designed to just have happened by accident or by some freak of...
But because, we only live a few decades, really, we look at everything in that finite way. But again, it's something like that bus is actually, if you think about it, has taken tens of thousands of years to appear, in a sense, from when we used our first tool. Yeah.
And that's the way with the universe. For me to believe that this Earth, as I say, the correct distance away, the right sort of oxygen, the right type of food, the right type of environment, the water system in itself, to have a contained unit that have only one water source, and yet that continues to go and be cleansed and come back round, is phenomenal. And for that just to happen, because if it was just out by just a little bit, we'd all be dead.
But maybe that's the way the universe works. Perhaps other planets have come to that same, perfect point. And Earth isn't that perfect, after all.
Only because of what we do to it.
What? Do you mean like volcanoes and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think, what we do to the Earth is just...
There have always been volcanic eruptions, like Pompeii, and that was 2,000 years ago. But that's surely not due to what, I don't know, the Romans were doing.
No, but I just think in as regards to the environment and the way that the polar caps are melting and things like that.
Some of it,
it's down to us. Yeah, there are forces, natural forces around the world, like tornadoes and winds and things like that. But for me, and I'm not asking you to that leap of faith, but for me, what I've learned makes perfect sense.
Oh, I'm open-minded. I just want to know.
And also where the Bible does touch on science. I might have mentioned this last time. It's completely accurate. It's not a science textbook, but it told us, thousands of years ago that the Earth is hanging upon nothing, and it's a sphere.
In Job, I think, was it? Yeah.
And also in the Mosaic law, which was 4,000 years ago, they had quarantining, don't touch dead bodies because they're unclean, bury your waste, because it's dirty. Those things, they were written a long time ago. The surrounding nations didn't have that information, but God gave that to the Israelites because He wanted to keep them clean.
Couldn't people have figured that out, though?
We've only just done it 100 years or so, 200 years. They used to have raw sewage running, but that's what spread the bubonic plague in London.
But they also built pyramids.
They did.
Thousands of years ago, and they have no idea how they did that.
On their open wounds. So just because they were advanced in one area, but the point is, the Bible knew, or God knew, when He inspired a person to write it, that would be unclean, would be wrongful. So it's things like that that build my faith, and the prophecies that were written down years before came true to the letter. Prophecies about Jesus Christ, what line He would be born into, where He would be born. There was 2 Bethlehems, He was born in one particular one. The way He would be born in a stable, the way he would die. There's so many prophecies that were written hundreds of years before. Even his manner of death is written down. If that wasn't inspired or from God,
Yeah.
the likelihood of one person being able to fulfill all of those, when a lot of it was out of his control, what family line is going to come through, whereabouts he was going to be born, it's really slim.
Yeah, well, the way I look at that is like what we're having faith in is the written word of who wrote down stuff in the New Testament and the Old Testament. Whoever wrote down all those answers to prophecy in the New Testament just probably had a copy of the Old.
With all due respect,
you know what I mean?
What you believe with evolution is faith in the person that's written that theory down.
It's not a belief system.
It is, because you haven't got any evidence at the moment to be able to prove it to you.
Yeah, I just told you.
Well, I just told you. Anyway, we've got to go because we've got to pick up children. But it's been really, really lovely talking to you.
I just like facts and to hear.
Yeah, and it's good that you've got an open mind. But
I don't know where the universe came from, but I know, So it's always interesting to hear different perspectives and everything. Yeah. So I didn't mean to keep you that long.
No, it's fine. Don't worry. We're through here. Just doing it now. So I'm just going to go get the children. So it's nice to meet you again.
Okay.
What was your name?
Mark.
Mark. I'm Jo. This is my friend.
Hello. All right. I'm glad the weather's a bit better for you as well.
I know. It's lovely today, but
it's getting warmer as we go, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank goodness.
I don't have the long johns on today, so.
Neither have we.
All right. See ya.